Scanning for audio.
Welcome to a Tin Dog podcast. This is the second time I've tried to record this one, because yesterday I nipped out at my lunch hour and sat and recorded this, and unfortunately the quality was appalling, so bear with me. Here we go again with a review of Eater of Light. But before I do that, can I just say how ridiculously excited I am that Big Finish are bringing us the War Master. Yes, some people have gone, oh, but the Master said that he could only, he was born as a kid and he was found in the nebula and all that nonsense. But you know what? I can live with that. Because, let's face it, if you have your memory wiped and you have other memories put in, the other memories that get put in are of being, a human being. Because that's what the 10th Doctor had when he had the watch, if you cast your minds back. But that's not important. What is important is that we discuss the Eaters of Light. But you know what? Like this podcast, perhaps the most incredible thing that'll be discussed are the bits at the end, in this case the beginning, where I talked about the War Master, and in the case of the TV episode, the bit at the very end where you've got Missy having a chat in the TARDIS, and of course the Next Time trailer. The Next Time trailer with the Sock Puppet Cybermen. Now if ever you needed a name for a band, there you go. Also Boys from Mondas, but that's just what my dad will be shouting when they come back. Sock Puppet Cybermen. How brave of the BBC to do that. I know it's pandering to Capaldi, but let's pander. Let's do this. So, bad news, or at least news. This is the single lowest rating, i.e. number of people sitting down and watching this episode, since Doctor Who came back. In fact, it ranks with the old series. Less people watching it, 2-point-something million. Not that it matters. I mean, let's face it, you were watching it, I was watching it, and everyone listening to this was watching it. And that's all that actually counts. Yes, it's the same woman who wrote Survival. There you go. Rona Munro has got very, very specific things that she wants to discuss, look at, and write about. And you know what? Good luck to her. That's fine. I'm all for that. Because let's face it, on paper, this should be one of my all-time favourite stories. It's got stone circles. Big tick there. It's a bit magical, explained with science. Big tick. It's got crows. My all-time favourite, crows. My God, I love a crow. If I see a crow, I'm happy for the rest of the day. Not as good as seeing ducks fly. Show me some ducks flying and I'll just be giggling, right? It's ridiculous. I just love watching a duck fly. That could really be classed as going off topic. Oh, question about crows. How come a crow, a bird that's all black, like a raven, how come they get to be the crow and a blackbird, a bird with admittedly a yellow beak, gets to be the blackbird? Oh, that's ridiculous. It's like one of those old-time minstrels. No, that's not on. Let's have a campaign to rename crows blackbirds because, well, they are. Yeah. Moving on. It's got Romans. It's got a bit of history. It's got the Celts. Yes, all of these things are big, ticky boxes for me. But you know what? Some things are less than the sum of their parts. When I was watching this, I turned to my wife, and I'm not going to call her Mrs. Dog. That's wrong. Or should we call her Mrs. Tin? And I said, oh, do you get the feeling that you're watching a 90s BBC drama? A really good one. Something like Century Falls. But, she kind of nodded. And yes, I know from experience, I know from watching too many episodes of Star Trek and from wandering around in nature. Yes, you know what, I've been outside. That rocks, real rocks, look fake. Fake rocks look fake. All rocks look fake. The only rocks that don't look fake are the Giant's Causeway, and they look fake. It's ridiculous. You can't make decent rocks. You can use Jabalite, expanded polystyrene. You can use actual rocks. It won't make any difference. The only rocks that looked real on TV are the big sticky out ones in that Star Trek episode where, you know the one. It's not important. So I'm going to let them off. And yes, my initial thoughts are, oh, Ogre. No, I am not that kind of fan. Well, I am, all right. Going, oh, it's a circle. No, leave it alone. It's not right. So yes, it's got some great moments. You know, her going, oh, I've read the book. Yeah, which one? Eagle of the Ninth? Fair enough. And that whole banter thing, get them out the TARDIS, get them moving. Nardole clearly was in the shower when they called him. Now that's an end-of-the-moment adventure. Surely they could have let him towel himself off. Some people out there have mentioned, oh, how come they carved the TARDIS when they didn't see the TARDIS? The Doctor was out of action for 2 whole days. Nardole was wandering the landscape trying to find him and Bill. And you know what? I'm sure they would have bumped into a little strange blue box that they might have written down. Yes, there are things that I didn't like. Things that I just can't put my finger on. The design of the stone wall that opened up. We've been spoiled. We really have. We've had Diagon Alley. We've had the unfolding bricks world. And you know what? 2 pieces of expanded polystyrene being pulled slightly apart by a stagehand looked cheap. The swirliness on the inside could be argued that it should be dark on the inside. But let's face it, these creatures look like dogs. No, they look like the demon dogs from Ghostbusters. Is it Zool? Yeah, it's Zool eating a jellyfish. That's it. That's the design list. Now, I know running around and, the glowiness is fine, but it's fine. Another great moment, the sexuality chat. But you know what? You're sitting there reading it going, well, you're Roman. Now, I know I'm an adult. And I already know all this kind of nonsense. But if you're new to this world and you're new to this kind of stuff, it's an important big pile of facts. We like facts around here. We like facts smeared over Doctor Who. Now, a tiny bit before we move on is about, well, the Romans and the Celts who combined forces in that lovely Doctor Who kind of way to journey into the vortex and in order to stomp them all out. Now, we'd had huge chat about the fact that you can't just seal up the rift, you have to leave people out. But of course, they journey into the rift and then seal it up. Well, that's eventually going to build up a load of pressure and isn't going to solve the problem. Even the Doctor going in and sacrificing himself isn't going to solve the problem. All of these people journeying inside and playing music that echoes through the hill, which implies that they're still alive somewhere in space and time. Well, that's not going to solve the problem eventually unless they've killed all of the big Zool-eating jellyfish monsters. But you've still got the actual rift itself unless they're causing it. Saying one thing and then not following through is a big crime that Doctor Who commits. And unless you've got that tiny bit of exposition, it just falls flat. And perhaps that's one of the reasons that I'm not as sold on this as I could be. Which brings us rather nicely to, well, the end bit. You've got 30-odd minutes of actual story. That's less than 1 episode of a Big Finish. On the subject of Big Finish, I have had hard drive failure and have lost far, far too many originals. But enough tears will be shed another time about that. The Missy end. Now, one of the big things is that everyone watching goes, oh, Missy's not really good. But think about it. Think like a Moffat. What's the one thing that's unthinkable? The one thing that is unthinkable is that the Master has changed, has developed, has grown. It's an unthinkable thing. We don't get to forgive as human beings. We're not very good at it. It's one of the reasons religions get brought about it. If there was religions about things that were easy, then there would be, well, no, there'd still be problems. But that's a whole different kettle of fish and a whole different podcast for another time. No. What we've got is, the unthinkable is that Missy herself has grown and got better. And my gamble is that the John Sim Master, the person who was the Master before this, is inside going to force a regeneration, going to burst out. Possibly that whole seeing your own reflection in the mirror talking back to you, that could just be the Master. Because the evil Master is inside her somewhere. Yes, she might be repressing, she might be moving on, but he's going to come out and he's going to stomp his feet. So that's my prediction. But of course I could be ridiculously wrong. So was it a good story? Of course it was. But it's so close to the end of the series and we know what's coming that, you know what, we just kind of want the sock puppet Cybermen. And that's wrong of us. So wrong. So with that, I'll fade away and hopefully this recording is going to be working and the sound quality will be better. But as the bloke who was in The Force Awakens who shouts, "Tell that to Frangipan," or whatever it is actually, was in this not playing a Scot, and he was overly Scottish in that, what's going on there? Right, I've rambled, I've talked too much, I've said very little. Same as always, business as usual. Hurrah. Be seeing you. On the 2nd of September 2017, Hooverville 9 will be with us. William Russell, the man who was Ian Chesterton and still is on Big Finish. Carol Ann Ford, Susan, the Doctor's granddaughter. Nicola Bryant, Perry. Toby Haydock, DVD Extras Man and everyone's favourite racist barman. Jessica Martin, Fraser Hines, Jamie. Phil Ford, Michael Pickwood, Philip Hinchcliffe and Matthew Dale are just some of the names who'll be appearing at Hooverville, the biggest little Doctor Who convention ever. Visit hooverville.org to get tickets. See you then. That was the Doctor Who Tin Dog Podcast, available on iTunes, YouTube, Twitter, RSS, Vimeo, and across the internet. Doctor Who and its associated properties are all copyright and trademark of the BBC. No infringement is intended. Why not become a supporter by visiting patreon.com/tindog. Contact the show on tin-dog@hotmail.co.uk. The Tin Dog Podcast is a founder member of the Doctor Who Podcast Alliance.